Now, me personally, I love Pikmin a lot, so I'm gonna make a video talking about it right now. Good morning, this is Keen again. I'm gonna do an unscripted video. I kind of have a sort of few notes and points I want to cover, but I'm just excited about the demo. I spent, I want to say 5 or 6 hours last night, playing until 3 a.m. basically, with this demo. I've played this franchise for its entirety. I played Pikmin 1, 2, and 3. I have not played Hey Pikmin, but we're discounting that here in this video. I don't think it's too relevant because 4 doesn't really touch too much upon it beyond Sparklium, I think, but we'll get into it. But yeah, I kind of just want to talk about it. You see I have my first file that I spent about 3 hours on, my second one also about 3 hours on. You can say the first one I actually completed because the way this demo works is once you get 1500 it boots you out, and the second one I'm actively ignoring a bunch of treasure, basically. But gosh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with this one. I'm trying to think where to even begin. But let's boot in and just go from there. Yeah, about that. Because I do think it is nice having scripts, but at the same time, when it comes to first impressions and just general excitement for something, it almost sort of feels more genuine to me when people are just talking about something as they go, because pretty much like every little thing they see becomes, oh, I like that, or oh, this is great. So, Oatchi, dog. I guess the first new thing is base camp, which is a new mechanic in Pikmin 4. I kind of like it. I like the idea of this area you can vibe in, because in every other Pikmin game, pretty much the only time you can be on the surface itself is as the day progresses, and then you're put on, the time system. So I think it's nice having this little area. And I guess, if you're new and you're struggling and like having days where a bunch of Pikmin are perishing for one reason or another, you get a few resources here and pellets, so that's cool. I enjoy the idea that as you rescue more captains, they're all sort of in this hub area, as well as the castaways, and they each have their own purposes and side quests. A lot of them you can't do in the demo, but in the full game, it'll become more fleshed out, this entire area, which is pretty nice. In regards to characters, the main group, what did they call it? Sort of the rescue squad? Rescue Corps, that's what it is. Sorry, I was a bit sleep deprived by the time 3 a.m. hit and I was playing this game, but I was having so much fun. I like the characters so far. They're fun. I think it's neat. They're sort of building a dynamic between some of them, and I like the little ways they express their personality, sort of when you find Shepard, for example. She's the captain, but she's afraid of dwarf bulborbs. Rightfully so, they could be dangerous, but I just find it amusing, little characterization like that. I do think the demo is a bit dialogue heavy, but a lot of games like that, or a lot of games tend to be like that in their intros. And it's not that it's bad or anything, I just think it kind of holds your hand a little bit much at times. But the positive is you have all these cutscenes, but upon my replay on the second file, which is the one I'm on now, you can skip them with the plus button. So it doesn't make replaying it so much of a hassle. It felt like if you were skipping through cutscenes, you could pretty much get from the very beginning of the demo to the sort of like main first area playtime within, I don't know, like 5-10 minutes. That's pretty solid. I like when games give you the option to do that, so I'm a big fan. There's a lot of new mechanics. Obviously, riding Oatchi is one of them. Getting on Oatchi, the fact you can send him somewhere. One of my initial concerns was the fact there was only like one playable captain, it seemed like, because all of these characters, as far as we know right now, just stick around base camp. But you can switch to Oatchi and play as him, and it seems like the only limitation that he can't do that a normal captain can is he can't pluck Pikmin, or just barks. But he can do a dash, it can knock stuff down, it can hurt enemies. And if you have your Pikmin riding on Oatchi, which is something you unlock by day 3, I want to say, you could do interesting new things where you sort of dash at an enemy, and once you hit them, all your Pikmin will latch onto it, which is a lot more efficient if you can do that against some enemies, then you're just throwing them. And you can still dash the Pikmin at enemies. That's still a mechanic you can do that was introduced in 3, but it is it's an upgrade that you get from Russ. That's a bit different. Also, I will say, one thing, if you're playing the demo and kind of like weirded out by the controls, I felt like this until my second file, and I didn't know you could do this because they didn't throw the tip at me for this. You can map things by hitting minus and going into shortcut settings. You can definitely optimize it better than this, but I was weirded out the first time I played this because I couldn't see a disband button. So I would highly recommend that you just map things to D-pad, because you can hold Y to pop up this menu, and then hit up the disband, for example, but it's a lot clunkier than just, you know, hitting down on D-pad. I don't have Pikmin with me, but that's the idea. Or, like, I mapped left to switch between cabs. I think that's much more convenient. That's pretty neat. I do enjoy a lot of people like to meme about this, calling it, oh, it's a skill tree. And you know, it kind of is with Oatchi. Oatchi has a lot of potential upgrades. You have upgrades with Russ as well, that a lot of them seem to function like the Pikmin 2 upgrades. You know, even having the same name, Scorch Guard, for example, the one you get from the Pileated Snacker in Bulbach's Kingdom of 2 that makes you immune to fire. That's here, pretty much one for one. It's just a different means of getting it as opposed to treasure, which is kind of cool. Granted, the way with Russ and Oatchi's training, you get the means to do this by rescuing more castaways. You build up, was it Pup Power? Something like that. Take over these upgrades. Pup Drive, right there on the screen. Again, unscripted, my bad. So there's incentive to do all these kinds of either main mission, side mission, whatever you want to call it. There's a reason to go out and collect things, which is kind of cool. I do find it funny how absurd some of these get. You can see Oatchi solo carrying this cantaloupe right here. Yeah, that's a good dog. That's a good dog right there.
The ball.
I guess we may as well transition to the main first area, since I'm going to be talking about that specifically, since this demo lets you explore pretty much the entirety of Sunspeckled Terrace and a pretty substantial amount of caves. The part that's weird to me is they sort of treat it like a big tutorial area. There hasn't been a single boss in the demo, which is kind of strange. I was kind of expecting at least one. And once we land on the surface, we'll talk about a few more things. Because again, there's a million things to talk about. I don't even know how long I want to make this video. It's been 8 minutes and I feel like I've barely even scratched the surface, because this demo is, again, surprisingly long. You could basically play the entire first area. You can see over here the end result of me wanting to play the game, but not actually, because the demo auto-ends your file once you get a certain amount of sparklium. So I'm collecting, but not actually collecting. This is a bunch of the treasure you can find in this area. In terms of the onion, this part of the UI is pretty similar to how it has been. What I do like is you can pick by 10. That is cool to me. I like that a lot. I'm not really gonna do very much, and you see the limit that's been imposed. I can only take 40 Pikmin at a time. That comes down to the Garlic Bulb, I think it's Garlic Bulb mechanic, where basically once you first land, you can only have up to 20 Pikmin, but each one that you collect will enhance the amount you can have in the field by an initial 10. The game sort of refers to it as a self-preservation tactic by the species, which is like, I get the justification. It's neat. Here we can ride Oatchi with all our Pikmin. A good dog. So I think it's neat. It kind of can be a balancing thing, where early game you're not allowed to have 100 Pikmin and just immediately swarm everything. So it sort of forces you to work with smaller numbers, which I also think is kind of neat for new players, because I can imagine the idea of multitasking getting a bit overbearing if you're new. And speaking of multitasking, I guess this is a bit hard to talk about by itself. But multitasking reminds me of Dandori battles. Which, if you haven't played Bingo Battle in 3, it's not quite like that. It's sort of like reminiscent of the challenge mode in Pikmin 3, where they give you an imposed time limit and basically say collect as much as you can. And the way it worked in 3, there were thresholds. You could get different medals based upon your performance, be it bronze, silver, gold, platinum is the highest, I believe. So they kind of implemented that in the main story with the whole castaway thing and doing Dandori battles with them, and it's pretty neat. I think there were 2 of them in this demo. I thought they were fun. And I do like the idea of trying to multitask and get a lot done at once. And again, this is good in the sense of Oatchi, because once you upgrade Oatchi to level 2 and 3, you get pretty neat upgrades. You can take a command on Oatchi. Oatchi can do a bunch of actions, which is super cool. Be it coming to you, go to the base by himself. Finding stray Pikmin is a really fun one, because sometimes you get those stragglers, you can send Oatchi to do that. Looking for castaways, they tend to only be in caves as far as the demo is concerned right now, so it's not really too useful unless you're seriously lost at the end of the cave, but you really won't be getting lost in the demo caves very much. Treasure, onions, materials, leaflings. Oh, I haven't seen that one. I guess that pops up after you do a Dandori battle that you can have Oatchi be like looking for those exclusively. That's neat. And Ice Pikmin specifically? Which I guess is because you can't reproduce Ice Pikmin in this. It's simply whatever you're given in caves. And speaking of Ice Pikmin, I've been talking for basically 11 minutes. I haven't even talked about the new Pikmin itself, so let's talk about that for a second. Learning my own controls. So Ice Pikmin are kind of weird. They're not immune to water, but you can see that they float in it. But if you disband them, or throw them at the water, personally I think disband is easier, because you saw them all, it's better than throwing it 30 times. When there's a number on the water, it tells you how many of these Pikmin you need to freeze the water to treat it as a surface, and this is how you access that one Dandori battle, by doing this and getting on Oatchi. So the timer is there. You have to be mindful of that. You'll see that a lot with one puzzle to obtain an onion if you're gonna play this demo the first time. Be careful with that. Saying that from experience. But I like the Ice Pikmin. I obviously don't have the raw numbers or data, but the idea is when you throw them at an enemy, they can freeze it. There's a little circle and a timer. And when enemies are frozen, they obviously can't move, but they take a reduced damage. That's kind of neat. I want to see more of the interactions they have, elementally speaking, I suppose, with other enemies. And I question if they're more vulnerable to fire, let's say, for example. But I like these guys. These guys are cool. The demo doesn't have nighttime events, that therefore no glow Pikmin, so can't comment on that yet. That's a full game release sort of deal. And I'm panning the camera a lot, as I'm also just appreciating the skybox. Skyboxes haven't really been a thing in Pikmin. I actually read on Twitter earlier that this game runs in Unreal Engine 4, which is surprising to me. Nintendo doesn't, generally speaking, do that. But I like the set pieces in the background. I like the sense of scale you can see, and even on the Japanese website, they have a bunch of really cute notes about how they're interpreting these sort of things. I think they refer to this over here as sort of the big, like, holy shrine, basically, and I think that's very funny. We have spicy sprays in the background via the berries. Those are neat. We have wog poles. Or, sorry, wall poles. That's how you know I've been playing Pikmin for a minute, because that was a name change in the European version of Pikmin that never came to the West until the re-releases of Pikmin 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken, and now 4. These are now called wall poles. You don't want to say slurs by accident. What else is there? I guess music. Music is another thing. As I mentioned before, I like the set pieces a lot. Again, it's just really pretty backgrounds, and it's just a very pleasant to look at kind of game. Music, I'm not huge on the music in this area specifically. I think it's a bit subtle for my liking. And like, subtle music can be good. in an atmospheric sense. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of my favorite songs are very subtle. But it doesn't feel catchy. You know, I've played this demo for 5 hours or whatever. Let's say I spent like 3 on the surface. I can't really tell you what the song in this area is off the top of my head. It doesn't stick to me a lot. Outside of that, there's a lot of neat musical stuff, such as returning jingles. Oh no, my OBS crashed. That's not good. I've been having this problem a lot lately. I had to splice the recording into 2. Hold on. Alright, sorry about that. I'm gonna have to make this 2 recordings and sort of put it into 1, I suppose. What was I talking about? Yeah, when it comes to music, a lot of the other things, musically speaking, such as the end of day theme or the song that plays when you're talking with the other Survey Corps members, is pretty much either the same music or, you know, have pretty much a mix on songs that have existed in Pikmin 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. And that's neat. But I do hope I'm a little more into the music in the full game. Because even in the demo, when you do fight the Porquillin, I want to say is how you pronounce the name, it sort of basically just uses the mini-boss music from Pikmin 3, and the mini-boss music from Pikmin 3 is the music from Pikmin 2? That's sort of the vibe I'm getting, where a lot of the music is the sort of feeling where I've heard this before. There's nothing wrong with that, but I do hope there's some new songs that stick out to me a little bit more. In terms of difficulty of the demo, you can't really comment on that too much, because of multiple factors. A, it's the first area, so therefore it is basically a tutorial, so it's not going to be very difficult if you're not a new player, basically. B, I'm kind of cheating, because I've played Pikmin 1, 2, and 3 a lot. I've done no death runs of all of them. I've done fast runs of them. I've done, yeah, like the 6-day run of Pikmin 1 that's 100%. I've done those sort of things, so... yeah, I do hope the full game is of a decent difficulty. I've talked about it a bit with friends and stuff. I think Pikmin 1 is fairly difficult, especially if you're new. It's very punishing. I think Pikmin 2 difficulty is a bit weird because stuff like purple is extremely overtuned. However, the caves are very much a learning experience. Once you know what they throw at you, it's not too bad. So knowledge is power in that kind of game. For sure. As it is in every game, but especially with 2. And I think 3's difficulty probably could have been a bit harder, and I'm speaking from the perspective of playing Vanilla 3 on the Wii U. I haven't played the Ultra Spicy Challenge difficulty, whatever it's called, on the Switch version of Pikmin 3, which limits you to 60 Pikmin, I believe, on the field at once. Yeah, I do hope the game is decently difficult. I don't hope it trivializes itself. I mentioned the upgrades and skill tree and such for Oatchi earlier. What I do like a lot is they let you equip and unequip them at any time. So it doesn't fall into the pitfall that some games do, where it feels like you're perma-locked into broken upgrades. Which is really good. This is sort of a random comparison, but I'm thinking about it, because I saw a friend playing it in VC last night, so it's the first thing that comes to mind when I say that. I love Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight's fantastic. But the nail upgrades in combination with Quick Slash and all that become very broken to melt things. And obviously you could just take Quick Slash off, yes, but the nail upgrade stays. It kind of trivializes some fights, let's say. For instance. Just as an example. But I do hope this game is decently difficult, at the least. I feel like I've talked about a pretty sufficient amount of stuff. The UI is new. I haven't really talked about that. I'm a little mixed. Let me get off Oatchi for a second. There is one little thing. You can hit L and R to change between which Pikmin you want. If you hit L and R together, you go to the Oatchi immediately. That's a little thing that I feel like a lot of people may not be realizing. Because again, there's a lot of little stuff hidden in the tips. Even I probably don't know a ton of them. For example... I'm actually gonna back off because I want to go into the Piclopedia for my next point. Oh, did I not go at base camp? Oh, I meant to go to base camp. Oh no. Can I get back there? I suppose I could just end the day. It doesn't really matter. Oh, but this is a good example of the music thing I talked about. This jingle has been the jingle for end of day since Pikmin 1. I do hope it does a thing with Pikmin 2, where it has variations depending upon your success in the day. For example, in Pikmin 2, if you collect, I don't know the threshold, a lot of treasure before you collect the depth, you get this really triumphant version of the song with a bunch of trumpets and stuff. It's really cute. I like it a lot. So I hope those kind of variants are still in place in the game. I got a lot of these terms I have to remember. Man post is that hub I talked about in the beginning. Oh, and I do think it's cute. A lot of the characters have their own like ways to welcome you back, basically. But be it the Colin doing the forget the dialogue for it, or like the thumbs up, or jumping up excitedly. It's a lot of little like tiny mini cute characterization. Only lasts a couple seconds, but like it's nice to have it there. I like little things like that. And this is the song from Pikmin 1 that plays when you leave the planet at night, and Oliver goes over his notes and you see how many Pikmin died today, that kind of thing. For the full game in the future. Oatchi's so cute, dude. Dog is so cute. But let's go over the Pikmipedia real quick. I think that's like the next exciting thing I haven't really gotten to show firsthand. You can view a bunch of the creatures that you've seen in the demo. And what I think is neat about this, specifically, is that you can hit engage. And this is totally new. It was funny to me when I was younger, for the Pikmipedia Pikmin 2, because I felt like this sort of, not hidden, but what word would I use? The Pikmipedia in 2, the areas they're in don't correlate one-for-one usage compared to actual areas, but they do like decently resemble it, and that seems to be the case here in Pikmin 4 as well, but you can actually walk around here. So I remember, you know, just having fun with the Pikmipedia itself and just fiddling with it just to sort of move the camera around to be imagining what the area would look like, but now you can actually just engage with it and you can mess with it. It's neat. A good dog. So, you know, it sounds like it's not a huge feature, but from the perspective of someone who was like a kid with Pikmin 2, I think it's kind of like, not heartwarming, it's kind of satisfying, because it finally fulfills that urge I had when I was younger, wanting to explore the area that the Pikmipedia is kind of sort of like teasing. So I'm a big fan of that. Regards to new enemies in the demo, Snowy Blowhog is new. It's a variant, basically ice version of Blowhog. Tusk Blowhog is new. Interestingly, this is the only Blowhog that seems to eat Pikmin. He has a mouth, none of the other ones really do, as far as I know, but he'll dash and eat the Pikmin. I think he's a funny guy. Also, like in the Pikmipedia, you can mess with the enemies, you can throw carrots at them, but you can kind of BM them a bit more in this, because you can throw bomb rocks. And that freezes him, and then you can throw a normal bomb rock. And he dies. No more enemy. Kinda brutal. That guy's pretty good. And he's not bloated, you know? Scorch Cake, this guy's funny. I like this guy. Cute. It kind of makes me think of the Toxbox from Mario, the way it moves, honestly. I'm a big fan of that guy. And then the Porquillon? Porquillion? Porquillon? I don't know. That's pretty good. I kind of just think of a brain, or like a fly's eyes, when I look at this guy. It's a little bit silly. Oh, and if you feel like smiting with the power of God, you can stun them with thunder, which is meant to replicate the Pick Carrot item they added in this. I haven't even talked about items, but again, there's so much stuff to talk about. Is again just unscripted, pure. Ian is excited about Pikmin 4 to the point they're uploading a non-Splatoon video on the channel. Crazy, I know. Engage in your hobbies and interests. Don't define yourself by one thing. Don't do the meme. This guy's fun. Enjoy. Ouch. Very silly guy. I think for the most part that covers what I want to talk about in the demo. I'm sure I missed a ton of stuff because again, there's just a million things to talk about, but I think I've rambled for a decent amount of time. I do have work 6 out of 7 days this week, so I kind of, you know, before I go to work a bit after I'm recording this, I wanted to put something up. So, that's what we're up to. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you're excited for Pikmin 4. If you haven't played it, I recommend you to play the demo. I didn't really go into caves or any of that, or like talk in too much detail about certain aspects, because I do think people should go play the game on their own. It's out there right now, it's free. Literally no reason not to. You know, even if you haven't played the other Pikmin games, like, just do it. It'll be fun. I recommend it. And yeah, 19. Subscribe if you're new, smiley face. I hope you have a great day.